So there's this state of matter generated by talisman called Orium. And Orium is a generative act rather than a matter act. So under Orium, not only does the inventor, whose name is Beauregard Fiche, allow for the annexation of his body, he allows for the generative capacity to become atheist under his regime, which is Magmatar. Under a Magmatar, there is a essence out of annexing runes. And runes are the embassy by which he capacitates under. So if there's multiple runes under a talisman, that means the neon lights of the talisman are actually linked to the geographic velocity of the runes that they reciprocate under. Since the talisman records velocity, not only does the runes allow for open access to their bodies, it denotes rights that are preachable only to the talisman itself. So, if the runes reject any part of the talisman, not only does this change how the runes functions, it changes how the manifesto manifests as manifestation. So this is how a Runescape capacitor forms out of three titles, which is Destination, Transformation, and Theorization. So if a destination is a limited one, not only does the ability for predestination form, it allows for predestination on all scales. So not only does the ability to transform it allow for free range, range is no longer in manifestation, but actually in transformation. And transformation allows for the ability to composite these things into a single unit under a new talisman called an artifact. And these are like the wireless routers of capacitors because they allow for open access on an individual level. And since the individual level is lower in size rather than upper in size, they demand that each part of it is unitarian to the center. So all center runes have circular thoughts to them that allow for each speech amendment to open access to amendum. An amendum is when the theorization allows for integration of each part of it. So each part of it is sinazol to the republicus they hold, which is to be helpers, aids to the centrifugal energy. So instead of being centrifugal forces, only the energy is demanded by it, which means it is a talisman of center. So talisman of center would also mean that the energy is withheld to each part of the individual parts of the runes. So runes also get to have destination. So if destination is also transformation, not only does the energy inlay with the talisman allows for the manipulation of each rune to be separated. So each one has the ability to theorize on its own and then combine with each other based upon the talisman. And this is called gossip. Since gossip forms for the essential need of artifacts, not only does the artifacts form lower class, The artifacts no longer need class at all. They are demanded to be apostates of the system. So under apostasy, not only do these runes function to limit the scapulatory act, Runescape denies them their right to hold Congress under surgeon license. Surgeon license would be theoreticians demanding that they manifest a single origin to their atom, which is to be an artifact, but an artifact in a way that talisman no longer respond. They want the death of the state rather than the living Christ of it. So if an inner party member is a Christhood, not only does this allow for recessive genomes to pass on through them, there is a domination in effect when they replicate. So this allows for the open access of heirlooms on the talisman that allow for artifacts to manipulate lower Congress members to act against it. So it's not as if apostates want or demand anything from the apostles they seek. These apostles are actually epistemes of the original talisman. So since the apostles are linked back into the episteme is congregation and accreditation at the same time, which means it opens wireless networks. And only under wireless networks do these formations allow for entities to cross over unless there is a supplementing of the apostles into the apostate. And if the apostles are apostates, not only does this allow for the demand of a church, churches can exercise authority under the apostles. And this apostle system is a Christ that allows a rebellion to occur between them and the talisman, which would be an apostate state becoming an episteme. So if under an episteme, not only does the apostles uh, allow for apostasy, they allow for the formation into the episteme, which allows for them to be manipulated. So episteme would be a regard for these people rather than a rejection of their livelihood. And this is called a president. A president is when a capitalist system takes control of the apostasy. The apostasy is when a apostate is allowed to open fire on apostles, and this is a revolution. And revolution is access to free exchange of episteme under apostleship.